The storm reached my hut with the enthusiasm of a drunk staryak slamming into a fence. The walls vibrated, the window shutters clattered like angry teeth, and the old heater in the corner made a noise that sounded suspiciously like a last will and testament. I muttered a few complaints to the universe, mostly about my terrible luck and the even worse timing of this blizzard, before grabbing my coat to check on the external sensor pole. Without that pole, headquarters would accuse me of failing to provide adequate meteorological service, which was bureaucratic language for Jalen. You messed up again. I yanked the door open, intending to run out and drag the sensor back, but instead something slammed directly into me. Not snow, not equipment. Something warm, soft, and definitely alive. I stumbled backward, limbs flailing, arms windmilling as if I was greeting a new species using interpretive dance. The door slammed behind us, and only then did I realize what, or rather who, had collided with me. She looked almost human, at least in the basic structural sense, but her ears were long, elegant arcs that curved down past her jaw like trailing comet tails. Snow clung to her hair in crystalline patches, her chest heaved with ragged breaths, and her boots left melting streaks across the floor. She trembled violently, though the heater had already begun blasting warm air toward her. "Oh, stars, are you okay?" I asked, kneeling beside her. "If you're here to complain about the weather, trust me, I'm already ahead of you." Her eyes fluttered open. They were bright, reflective, as if someone had taken the night sky and compressed it into irises. She didn't answer, just stared around the hut, as though expecting something to burst through the walls at any moment. I helped her sit up, grabbing a blanket and wrapping it awkwardly around her. My wrapping technique looked like a toddler trying to gift wrap a live chicken, but she didn't complain. Her long ears twitched, angling toward the howling outside. "You're freezing," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "You should be trembling from cold, not, whatever this is. Hopefully not an allergic reaction to humans. That would make this very complicated." She opened her mouth, closed it again, then whispered something in a language I didn't recognize. The sound was soft, musical, but each note trembled. "Right," I said. "Communication barrier, no problem, I'm fluent in panic." She lifted a hand to her chest, took a slow breath, and finally managed in accented basic. "Not cold." "Well, that narrows it down," I said. "Great, wonderful, definitely not terrifying at all." She flinched at a sudden roar of wind outside and curled in on herself. Her ears pressed tight to her head before lifting again in sharp alertness. "Not cold, fear," I swallowed. "Are you being chased?" Her pupils widened. Her silence was answer enough. The blizzard outside howled again, the sound deepening into a low, unnatural hum. Something about it prickled the hair on my arms. I'd been stationed on this frozen rock for 3 years, and storms didn't usually sing. At least, not in a way that felt like they were trying to harmonize with your bones. She leaned closer to the door, listening, her entire posture tense. "They follow the storm," she whispered. "Who? Weather enthusiasts with extremely poor judgment." Her lips tightened. "Hunters." Of course it would be hunters. Because hiding from the weather alone wasn't dramatic enough. I moved to the supply shelf, pulling out a thermal canister of emergency stew. Heating it would distract me from the rising panic. The heater let out a violent sputter as if warning me not to make it work harder, but I ignored it and set the stew on its warming plate. She watched me, confusion mixing with fear. "You prepare food." "When in danger," I said solemnly, "a man needs stew. This is an ancient earth tradition. It helps prevent screaming." She blinked, then, just barely, her trembling eased. For a moment the storm quieted, but the quiet was worse. It felt intentional, strategic, a breath held by something massive, her ears angled sharply toward the roof. "They are close." I reached for the emergency panel near the heater. "Okay, look, I have a defensive system, sort of. Technically it's a weather analyzer, but if you turn it on and squint, it feels like protection." She stared at me. "You plan to defend us with climate equipment." In my defense, it cost a lot. She pressed a hand to her forehead, exhaling shakily, but a flicker of something, maybe faint amusement, touched her expression. "You are strange." "I get that a lot." The wind returned in a sudden violent surge. The hut groaned. A deep metallic vibration rippled across the roof, too steady, too rhythmic to be weather. Drones, she shrank closer to the wall. Her trembling returned, sharper now. "Okay," I said, forcing my voice steady. "You're safe here. I don't know what's after you, or why, but we'll figure it out." Her eyes met mine, fearful, uncertain, and yet trusting, as if my absurd little hut and my questionable stew were the first safe things she'd seen in a long time. Outside, something heavy landed in the snow with a soft mechanical thud. I gulped. "Mostly safe," I corrected. 90%, 80, 70-ish. Her ears twitched. "We must survive the night." I nodded. "Right, easy. Just you, me, the blizzard, and the ominous footsteps outside. Perfectly normal evening." The footsteps outside circled the hut with the slow, deliberate rhythm of something that had all night, and absolutely no empathy. I held my breath, which did not help anything except convince my lungs to file a complaint. Lyria, she had told me her name between tremors, pressed her back against the wall, her long ears angled upward like living antennae. Every tiny vibration in the storm made them twitch. If my ears did that every time something worried me, they would have tied themselves in knots by now. The heater flickered again, casting uneven light over the cramped space. My stew bubbled quietly, utterly unaware that we might be moments away from being scooped up by hostile storm-chasing tech. I handed Lyria a cup of it anyway. "Eat. It's terrible but warm. A combination which builds character." She sniffed it, suspicious. "Is this safe for my species?" I hesitated. "Well, it hasn't killed a human yet. That's our best data point." A small sound escaped her. Half a laugh, half a sigh of disbelief. The tension in her shoulders eased, if only slightly. She tasted a tiny sip, then blinked. "This is not terrible." "I'll add that to my resume," I muttered, before the floor vibrated again. This time the thud was closer, just outside the door. A mechanical chirp followed, sharp and scanning, like a robot bird trying to locate seeds of fear. Lyria's ears flattened. "They search for heat signatures. They use the storm to mask their movement." "Because of course they do," I whispered. "Couldn't just knock like normal rude people." She moved toward the heater and held her hands over it, not for warmth, but to study the airflow. "Your machine, can it be adjusted?" "Adjusted how?" I asked. "The last time I adjusted it, it made a sound like a dying walrus and refused to heat anything except my left boot." She motioned urgently. "If we overload it, even briefly, we can flood the hut with heat scatter. It will blur their readings." "Great," I said. "So we're cooking ourselves alive. Terrific plan." But she looked at me with those star-sky eyes, determined, steady despite the fear trembling around her edges. So I swallowed whatever common sense I had left and crouched by the heater panel. The machine hummed with an old, stubborn energy, kind of like my grandmother, but less friendly. "Okay," I murmured. "You twist that valve. I'll pull this wire, and may every engineering deity forgive us." Lyria hesitated. "If it explodes." "It won't," I said confidently, then added, much less confidently, "probably." We moved in sync. The heater coughed, sputtered, roared, and then a wave of heat blasted across the hut like we'd opened a portal to a very frustrated sun. Lyria's long ears flared outward at the temperature spike. I yelped as my eyelashes tried to curl. Outside, the drone chirped again, confused this time. A soft whirring scan passed over us, then shifted, drifting toward the eastern ridge. The storm swallowed the sound. Lyria slumped in relief. "It worked." I wiped sweat from my forehead. Of course it worked. Only 3% chance of catastrophic failure. 3, she asked, alarmed. "Okay, 30, I admitted. But that's practically the same number upside down." She sat beside the heater, pulling the blanket closer. Now that the immediate danger had drifted away, the tremble in her hands became more noticeable. She wasn't shaking from cold or exhaustion. This was deeper, etched into her muscles. I sat beside her, trying not to make it awkward, which naturally made it awkward. "So, how long have people been trying to hunt you through interplanetary blizzards? Because that seems like a very specific hobby to inspire in enemies." Her ears lowered slightly. "It is not hobby, it is politics." "Oh, good," I said. "Everyone loves politics, especially the kind involving drones and weather manipulation." She drew her knees up, voice softer. My people hide our settlements, not from danger but from those who would use us. We hear frequencies others cannot, sense patterns in storms. My ears, she touched them lightly, make me valuable to the wrong kinds of leaders. And they want to drag you back. Yes, she whispered. I ran, they sent hunters. Well, I said, they're doing a terrible job. 10 out of 10 for dramatic timing, 2 out of 10 for execution. A faint, startled smile touched her lips, but her eyes remained shadowed. You risk yourself by sheltering me. Lyria, I said, I live on a frozen moon in a hut that leaks air when the wind sneezes. This is the most exciting thing that's happened to me in years. Also, I'm not letting anyone with storm drones bully someone with ears that nice. She blinked. Nice. Very aerodynamic, I clarified. Could probably hear my self-doubt from across the room. Her shoulders shook, not with fear this time, but a quiet laugh she tried to hide. The sound warmed the room more than the heater's reckless inferno. The wind outside shifted again, but softer now. The drones were moving on for the moment. The storm pulsed with strange light, flickers of energy dancing behind the clouds like distant circuitry. We have time, I said, leaning back against the wall. She looked at the door, then at me. Not much. Then, I replied, we use it well, we plan, we survive, and if all else fails, I'll weaponize my stew. This time she didn't hide her laughter at all. The storm didn't ease so much as it rearranged itself, stretching into long, spiraling ribbons of light that pulsed through the clouds like veins charging with electricity. Lyria watched the sky through the narrow window slit, her long ears lifted in alarm. They are redirecting the heart of the storm, she whispered. They want to flush us out. Fantastic, I said, because nothing makes a cozy evening like being hunted with weather. The heater sputtered behind us, valiantly trying to warm a hut that now vibrated with an energy I was pretty sure violated at least 6 safety regulations. Lyria stepped back from the window, her expression determined. We cannot hide anymore. So we run. We do more than run, she said. We break the storm. I blinked. Just casually dismantle a supercell engineered by angry space politicians. No big deal. She knelt beside the storage crate, opening it and pulling out the only device I owned that had both flashing lights and the tendency to explode when stared at aggressively. The portable atmospheric generator. I had been saving it for emergencies, not existential crises. Lyria traced her fingers along the generator's coils. This can amplify my frequency sense. If I guide the storm's pattern, and you stabilize the machine, we can disrupt the hunter's control. Perfect, I said. A 2-step plan. Step 1, don't die. Step 2, don't die loudly. Her lips curved faintly. You have changed since I first entered your hut. I've aged 10 years in the last 2 hours, I muttered, grabbing my coat. We stepped into the storm. The wind punched me in the face immediately, which felt rude, but I pushed forward. Lyria moved with strange grace, her ears tuning themselves to invisible currents. The sky rippled above us, storm energy bending toward a central point where 3 drones hovered in triangular formation, their lights cold and predatory. They control the pattern, Lyria said. If we disrupt their harmony, the storm collapses. Great, I shouted over the wind. How do we disrupt harmony? Sing off-key. You stabilize the generator, she said, ignoring my excellent suggestion. I activated the device. It hummed, shook, sparked, and made a noise that suggested it was reconsidering its purpose. Lyria placed her hands on the energy coil, her long ears glowing faintly as she attuned herself to frequencies far beyond anything human hearing could reach. Waves of invisible sound pulsed outward. The drones jerked in confusion, their formation faltering. One drone tilted toward us, preparing a strike. Lyria, heads up. She didn't flinch. Her voice rose, soft but firm, layered with harmonic echoes that vibrated through the snow and the air and the core of the storm itself. Her frequency collided with the drone's signals. The sky shuddered. I gripped the generator as it bucked like a furious beast. Please don't explode, I begged. I know I insulted your user manual last week, but this is not the time for grudges. The storm writhed. The drone's lights flickered. More, Lyria gasped. I rerouted every spare charge the generator had. It whined, flashed, and unleashed a blinding pulse that shot upward, straight through the drone's signal web. The triangular formation snapped like brittle glass. The drones dropped from the sky, crashing into snowbanks with pathetic mechanical squeals. The storm stuttered, wavered, and then, like a giant exhaling, collapsed outward. The wind softened. The clouds unraveled. The sky dimmed into quiet. Lyria lowered her hands. The glow faded from her ears. She swayed on her feet. I grabbed her before she could fall. "Easy, you did it." She leaned against me, exhausted but smiling. A real smile this time, warm and unguarded. We did it. For the first time since she'd crashed into my hut, she wasn't trembling. The quiet that followed felt unreal, too gentle, too peaceful. The snow drifted down lightly, harmless now, as though the planet itself was apologizing for the whole trying-to-kill-us thing. We returned to the hut slowly. I half-carried her, half-stumbled through drifts. When the heater's warm air wrapped around us again, she let out a long breath. "You could have left me," she said softly. "You owed me nothing." "True," I said. "But then I would have missed